book. We're going to be on page 87 of Shift today. And I want you to write a few things down. First of all, I'm just going to shortcut the process and help you take notes. Yeah, you got it. Thank you, Clarissa, for being my mouse. I'm going to help you take notes. And I'm just going to tell you what to write down before we get into today's content. Shifts create urgency. Write it down. Competition for leads becomes fierce. Write it down. Is competition for leads fierce right now? Say yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So even though the market hasn't necessarily shifted, when you look at the traditional definition of a shift, moving from a seller's market to a buyer's market, or from a buyer's market to a seller's market, it's still a shift as far as you're concerned as a real estate agent. Competition for leads is fierce, has been, just so you know, in case you didn't know. Okay, the next thing I want you to write down is you have to get to the table before others do. That's your goal. Get to the kitchen table, get to the listing conversation, get to the buyer consultation conversation before others do. That's your goal. And then the last thing I want you to write down is moods swing and circumstances change. Moods swing and circumstances change. ... Don't judge away opportunity. All of you have had a conversation with someone who has said, I'm not going to put my home on the market. I'm just going to, I'm going to wait until blank. I'm going to wait until the fall. I'm going to wait until after the holidays. I'm going to wait another year. And all of us have had those conversations only to drive by that person's home the next week and see a real estate sign in the yard. Now, let me say it again. Moods swing and circumstances change. Don't judge away opportunity. So, in having a conversation with my buddy Pierre yesterday, I asked him a couple questions, and one of the questions I asked him was, how many days have you been part of Keller Williams Coral Springs? And he answered a few questions, and we finally got it down to it's been 40 days. Cool. Now, if he's following the model, how many face-to-face appointments should he have been on in the last 40 days?
40.
Thank you. I love it when you guys listen to me. So he should have been on 40 appointments in the last 2 days. Now, I won't tell you the number because I don't want to throw Pierre under the bus, especially when I didn't tell him I was going to do this. It's not 40. Okay? It's not close to being 40. You guys with me? So I said, all right, Pierre, let's start over. And I want to give this to you in the absolute most simple form that I can. Because I want you to understand, we get so busy inside our heads trying to figure out what it takes to be successful that we lose sight of the answer, which has always been right in front of us. Remember, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. Keep it simple. And I started drawing pictures. And I said, everything to the right of this line over here is transaction management. Now, that's what happens when somebody decides to sell their home, to buy a home. Transaction management is the process of getting their home on the market, advertising it, sharing it on social media, everything we do to get that property under contract. Then it's everything we do to get from contract to close. That's transaction management. Now, at the end of that closing, we have a payday. And on average, in Coral Springs, Parkland, that payday is worth about $10,000. So I said, okay, the end result is we want to get to the closing table and we want to get a $10,000 commission check. Fine. Now, how do we get there? Well, everything to the left of this line over here is lead generation. And I said, Pierre, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go out and have conversations with one person at a time. Knock on doors, make phone calls, network, talk to your neighbors, talk to people at church or temple or at the gym or at Starbucks or at Publix. Just talk to people until every day you find one person who's thinking of selling their home. Whether it's today or next week, doesn't matter. If it's a month from now or a year from now, doesn't matter, because we're looking for opportunity, period, not opportunity right now. Now, Pierre, you're going to have a conversation with Bob. Bob lives in a neighborhood. You knock on his door. He says, gee whiz, I'm glad you stopped by. I was thinking of selling my house. It's not going to be for maybe another 90 days, maybe 6 months from now. But yeah, thinking of selling my home. So Bob is going to go into your database. And you're going to communicate with him systematically using a 36-touch smart plan. So you have a system in order to communicate, in order to follow up, which leads us to this giant space here in the middle. We've got Bob who's in follow-up now. Then the next day we go out and we talk to people until we find somebody who's thinking of selling their home. And we talk to Mary. Don't you love my name? So it's like 40 years ago, right? And Mary is thinking of selling her home. So now 2 days, we've met 2 people who are thinking of selling their home. And Mary is now in our database as well. So is Bob. They're both on 36-touch smart plans in order to follow up systematically. And the next day, we go out and we meet Rose. Don't ask me where I'm getting these names from, but now Rose is thinking of selling her home. She's in our database. We're following up with her systematically, and it's 40 days from now. Because like I told Pierre, I said, Pierre, 40 days from now, you and I are going to be sitting here having this conversation, just like we're having a conversation about the last 40 days. And when I ask you, hey, how many people are in your pipeline? The answer is going to be how many? It's 40 days from now. 40. Now we have 40 people that are in our database. Are you guys tracking with me? Mm-hmm. One person at a time, we've got 40 people who are in follow-up. And because we are following up systematically once per week for the first 4 weeks, once every other week for the next 8 weeks. So once a week for the first month, once every other week for the next 2 months, and then once a month after that, until we get to that point where they get serious about selling their home, where they change their mind. No, where they make a new decision based on new information. And we've created emotional proximity with probably about 20% of this group. That's the number that I got over 13 years. So that should be the number you get. And if it's 20%, that's 8 sales. That's 8 people that we got here. We got to closing. We get paid an average of $10,000 a piece. That's $80,000 that we've created over the next 40 days because we're meeting one person every day. We met Bob, we met Mary, we met Rose, and once every day we're putting somebody new in our database. We're entering somebody into systematic follow-up. And then every day we do that again until we meet somebody who's thinking of selling their home and then put them in their database We put them in systematic follow-up, and every day we're following up with everybody who's in that funnel. So we have systematic follow-up until we get to that point where they get serious about selling their home. And then over time, we've built a very successful real estate business. Now, can I make it any more simple than that? Can I? Let's just, one more time. Go out and talk to people every day. Write it down. Until you meet one person who's thinking of selling their home. Write it down. Put those people in your database and use the tools that Keller Williams provides you, hashtag 36Touch Smart Plan, to systematically follow up with them until they're ready to sell their home. One more time, go out and meet with people, go out and talk to people every day, whether it's in person, knocking on doors, or making phone calls, talk to people every day. Number two, until you meet one person who's thinking of selling their home. Number three, put those people in your database and use the tools that we provide you in order to systematically follow up until they get serious about selling their home. And then the next day, hit repeat and do it again. Systematic, go out and talk to people until you talk to Mary, who's thinking of selling her home. Put Mary in your database, use a 36Touch Smart Plan to systematically follow up with her until she gets serious about selling her home. Now, the only thing that changes is day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day forever. In addition to lead generation, you also have lead follow-up. Lead generation, lead follow-up. Lead generation, lead follow-up. And you will build a very successful real estate business. Does that make sense? Can you hold the question?
Yes.
I'm on a roll. So page 87, bottom of the page. Gary Keller says, shift, create, urgency. You've been in urgency. If you're a real estate agent in South Florida, especially, you've been in urgency because we have massive competition for leads. Shifts create urgency. The competition for leads becomes fierce, and your only choice to get your unfair share is to get your unfair share of the leads that are out there. Are you guys following me? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to share my page. Hopefully. Let's see how this goes. So far, so good, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You guys see that mess up there? What the heck? Okay. Now. Okay, so you're looking at market share for Coral Springs Parkland. The conversation is get your unfair share, correct? Get your unfair share. You with me, right? Mm-hmm. And Keller Williams Realty Coral Springs is #1 in market share for closed sales for the month of April. What you're looking at is a graph for the month of April that shows Keller Williams Realty Coral Springs #1 in market share, getting our unfair share. Yes? Yes. Okay. Now, one of your competitors who offers 100%, this is just a side-by-side comparison. Hope I don't offend anybody, and if I do, oh well. One of our competitors who's a 100% company, matter of fact, 3 of our competitors that are 100% companies, their fair share, and the whole value concept of these companies is you get to keep 100% of your commission, right? If you're selling fewer homes, are you making more money or less money if you get 100%? In other words, let me say it a different way. If I give you a choice of 80-20 with a cap on 20 sales, or 100% on 2 sales, which would you choose? 80-20, the first one, right? Okay, so these 100% companies are coming in at number 24, number 25, and number 28. And that's not even real because these are ties. So that's really 30 something. And if you look at this number right here, four properties sold for the month. This is an office with over 100 agents and they sold 4 homes in the month of April. You guys tracking with me? Is that unfair share or pretty much not much at all? Not much at all. You got it. Training matters. It matters a lot. It might be the most important conversation. It might be the difference between surviving to thriving and getting out of the real estate business. Everybody okay with this?
Yes.
Did I make anybody mad?
You can never do that.
Raise your hand if you're mad at me. All right, this means you not only have to find leads before others, but also convert them to appointments before they get away to others. If I showed you the same graph for listings taken in the month of April, the conversation would be about opportunity, Keller Williams, Coral Springs. In other words, this is a locker room conversation, okay? And we're going to talk about the game. We're watching the game film and we're looking for areas where we can improve. We were not number 1 in market share for the month of April for listings taken, right? We expect to be, and we should be. And there's a lot of listings out there that we didn't get. Now, why is that? Don't answer that question, okay? We have an opportunity to go get more listings. This is good news because if you think you're not hitting your goals because there's not enough properties being listed, that's not the case. You're not hitting your goals because you're not talking to enough people. Get that? You're not having the right conversations. You're not getting to the table before others do. Don't, no sad face. It's okay. No sad faces. It's okay. Because the good news is just pay attention to what we talk about every day. I'm going to teach you what you need to do in order to get to the table before anybody else. As quick as you can have, as quick as you can, you have to get to people who want to do business. You know, if I were writing this book, I would add something to that. Gary Keller says, as quick as you can, you have to get to the people who want to do business. And here's my ad. And you have to help the people who don't want to do business make a new decision that now is the time to do business. Did you hear me? So Gary says, as quick as you can, you have to get to the people who want to do business. John says, and you have to help the people who don't currently want to do business make a new decision that now is the time to do business. In other words, if you're only looking for seller leads, then your opportunity is going to be limited to those people who have already decided to sell their home. In addition to that group, you have to be the reason people want to sell their home. You have to get really, really good at these conversations in order to help people make a new decision that now is the right time versus waiting. All right. Put your hand in the air. Talk to me. Juanita, you had a question.
I was writing down